As for the claim, online learning will never work with my discipline, I will argue this claim. I would say the relationship between the efficiency of learning and the individual's discipline should be domain specific and context dependent. There are several fallacies with the claim in the topic, and I will question this claim from three aspects. The first is the term online learning. I would say we must first understand the complexity of the environment in which the online study takes place. This process is subject to different variables, both intrinsic and extrinsic, such as the design of the courses, the supportive instruction from teachers, or the conditions of individual learners. Therefore, the appropriateness of online study should be evaluated on a case-by-case basis. This might not work with some students in specific majors, but for example, I would say in language acquisition, online study is very practical and conducive. One convincing examples can be seen in students who want to learn a language which is spoken by a small number of people. In that case, it might be difficult for them to find the native speakers in their own countries. But distance learning allows them to interact with native speakers in other parts of the world so that it will be very practical. Another problem of the claim is the so-called term will never work. I would say it is an overgeneralized claim while it ignores any exceptions. As I mentioned, there is a very many different determinants in the process of learning. It is impossible to make a universal rule that applies to all demographics. One approach that is repulsive to some people could be attractive and fascinating to others. When we go back to the language study, the case of language study, a research made by Japanese scholars based on over 4,000 students aged between 4 and 12 years old. The results shows that the satisfaction of the students vary significantly by their ages and the design of the program. For example, those in age 10, this shows high satisfaction rate than their older counterparts who need more mentorship from instructors. So I will say, mm, whether it works or not really depends on different variables. The last fallacy of the statement is the so-called my discipline. By the same token, it is also an ambiguous term that includes so many personal variables, individualized elements. So it will result in differences in the efficacy of learning. For example, everyone's discipline it might be different according to their learning target, their behaviors, or their habits of study. So it will difficult to make decision to decide whether the efficacy is positive or negative while ignoring so many uncertainties in individuals' disciplines. Uh, another survey data shows that over nearly 500 students from different nationalities, in their responses to online courses in language study, their responses are totally different. For example, some white students they shows highly satisfactions about the course rewards of the courses, while some students from Asia, due to their limitation in aptitude or language skills, shows a negative response to the effects. So I would say also that because of their different of their different learning targets. Different learning targets also influence their responses. So from the three perspective, I will say it is simplistic to generalize to claim online study is never work. Online study never work with individuals' discipline.